Now, DevOps has really been taking the industry by storm. DevOps is a synergy of Agile and Aiello as a framework, and it really is looking at the whole process from development to QA to operations. And I think that there's some very important things that the folks who are making DevOps popular are doing a great job of pointing out to us. A lot of times it seems like we're playing volleyball in the development teams. The developers write their code, it's built, it's packaged, and we throw it over the net to the QA team. And if they can manage to find some bugs, all right, they caught us, and we'll have to go in, we'll have to actually fix it. And then once it passes QA, we throw it over the net this time to the operations team. And there's often very little communication between development, QA, and operations. And one of the good things about DevOps is that it's really pointing out the importance of having effective communication throughout the whole life cycle. It's a full life cycle approach. You want to have good communication to all stakeholders, and you want to break down those barriers. Stop playing volleyball. We can play volleyball on the beach sometimes. Let's make sure that our development teams, our QA development and operations teams, the whole team is communicating effectively. Now I want to point out you can't forget about the separation of roles. In DevOps, we talk about the same team being involved with the entire process, but sometimes you still have to have your code being built independently. For many organizations, that's a regulatory requirement, and I've gotten calls from big banks where the Office of the Currency found out that they had failed to really have their code being built independently, and as a result the Office of the Currency was threatening to shut down the bank. So you got to make sure you don't run afoul of regulatory requirements. And one of the techniques that I have found does satisfy some audit environments is to just automate that whole build, package, and deploy process using a separate computer account that is fully traceable. Now, I think that I want to make clear to everybody that while that worked in one environment, you have to check with your own audit folks to see if that's going to be acceptable in your environment, because in many places you really do have to have that separation of roles. So now the Dev QA focus is so important. You want to make sure that development is helping the QA team by letting them know what has changed. Now you can have black box testing where the QA team is just pounding on the keyboard, and that's all fine, that's great stuff. But you also want to make sure that you are really giving enough information to the QA team so they can be effective. So development has to at times work very closely with QA, and QA may also see things in operations would like to know about. So we're talking about breaking down the barriers. A self-managing, self-organizing team is clearly more effective. That's one of the things that DevOps has taken a nice focus on. And by the way, the build and release team needs to communicate with each of these stakeholders to provide the information. I usually take a walk over after I build something and give the QA team a heads up. Hey, this is the piece of the code we changed. You might want to make sure that you start here with your testing. So it's very important to have good communication. So the first 7 things, the 7 things that I find in my practice as a consultant that I have to consider is setting up an effective source code management environment. Setting up good build and release engineering, it's lots of automation. Really taking environments and considering them as first-class citizens, and of course continuous integration and deployment, and throughout the entire process considering the importance of verification and validation. And obviously we've also talked a little bit about the importance of DevOps as well. Now I think I want to ask Leslie to come back, and I'm going to just turn your microphone on in just a moment. And I'm going to ask Leslie to kind of read some of the questions to us. Leslie, you have some questions there? I see a bunch coming up.
Absolutely, Bob. That was just a really wonderful presentation. Thanks for all that useful information. And let's get started with some of the questions. What are some of the lessons you've learned while trying to implement Agile CM in different environments?
Well, I think that the first lesson that I've always tried to consider is being able to use the techniques in my own work that I'm trying to get others to use. And kind of what I'm getting at here is we want to talk about Agile CM. We want to make sure we're using the Agile principles on our own stuff. And I often talk about this as being the shoemaker's children never have any shoes. So the first lesson in implementing Agile CM is make sure you're thinking about the Agile principles. Now, Leslie, I see that we also have some questions that are coming in online, and I'm not sure if you can see that from your screen, so I'm going to take the liberty of reading a couple of them as well. So how does one convince, so this is a good question, how does one convince development that they are not the customer, especially under Agile? And this is coming from my brother Ben Weatherall, who's an expert columnist and a very, very knowledgeable guy on CM Crossroads. And Ben, you and I are clearly going to have to blog this out, because I believe the developers are the customers. And I like to treat them as customers, and I like to really consider them to be my customers, and at the same time we all have to take care of the end users who are going to be using our code and consider them the customers as well. Leslie, are you able to see the questions now from your console?
I am. I just wasn't sure which ones you were interested in first. So
well,
thank you for taking care of that.
So I see Maher has asked us a question. Do you want to read that one?
Absolutely. He would like you to please expand on the software bill and branching.
And materials, software bill of materials, the BOM, and branches. And what about the firmware bill of material? So Maher, that you're asking some great questions here. The bill of materials is a list of things that go into a particular package. So when you create a jar, generally there's a manifest in there that should describe all of the things that you're packaging in there. And I notice your reference to firmware, so I'm going to assume that you're in a hardware and software configuration management environment. And I've been seeing more and more agile environments that do combine software and hardware configuration management. And that is, of course, very, very important. So you want to make sure that your bill of materials includes both the versions of the hardware as well as the software in there. Now, branching is not really related to that. That's how you control different variants in the code. So I have a feeling I haven't fully answered that question, Maher. If you want, you can email me and explain your question a little bit further, and I'll be glad to answer it. So I see a question. Let's see, what's the next question here? I want to point out that Ben Weatherall came back and noted that they are a customer, but they are not the only customer. Right you are, Ben. That is absolutely correct. Let's read Shabir's question. Do you see that, Leslie?
I do not have that.
All right, it's probably scrolled off your screen. How do you address concept baseline and requirement baseline in Agile methodology? And I think it's important to realize that version control and configuration management are applied to every artifact that is in the full application lifecycle. So you do in fact want to baseline your concepts. You do want to in fact want to baseline your requirements. They need to be under version control and considered just like any other artifact. And Shabir, again, if I have not fully answered that, you can send me an email and we'll be glad to answer that a little bit further online. So we got just a few more minutes left. Leslie, you want to go and pull another question from your list as we're getting close to wrapping up here?
Well, I think since we only have a few more minutes, the most important question to cover would be, what do you see as the next logical steps for Agile CM? Where do you see it going in 2011 and forward?
Well, I've been in this game a long time now, and one of the fantastic things I've seen is actually bringing some of the core concepts that we talked about really way back. I don't want to say how far back, but I'm really talking the 80s and the 90s, and I think that we're really learning a lot about how to be more effective, to do more with less, and I think that's exactly where Agile is going. We're learning to be more effective, to improve our productivity and our quality, and I think that that's really great, and that's really where our focus has to be, to continuously improve what we do and raise our game. Now I'm just gonna throw you a curve, Leslie. Tom gave us a great question. Does it go without saying that Agile can only occur with branching and merging? My company is trying to do Agile, but we do zero branching. So I guess the first question I'd have for you, Tom, is why do you do zero branching? There are many organizations that do not use branches, and I can tell you some good reasons for that. I've seen quants in mathematical environments where they use branches very effectively, and I've seen other places where they just decided to always run forward. It was easier to not deal with variance in the code. They just always ran forward. And my question back is that working for you? If it's working for you and you're not having any problems, then that's great. But I'm guessing that the reason you're not doing branching, because branching is very effective, is that you haven't had somebody really show you how to use the source code management tool effectively. So I don't believe that you can say that Agile can only occur with branching, but I think that branching is very, very important. So Tom is coming back and saying, we use Harvest, we do manual branches at the end of one release into the next. It is not working, and no one has shown us the way. Well, we can definitely show you the way, Tom. I mean, that's kind of getting back to the very first competency that I mentioned at the very beginning of this broadcast, and that is source code management is a first-class citizen. Now, I do hope that you'll all join us again for future broadcasts. In just a moment, Leslie is going to lead us on the way out. I had just a quick reminder to everybody. This is being sponsored by our consulting practice, and we do provide configuration management assessments to either standards and frameworks or to just industry best practices. At the end of the day, after we've done the assessment, we help you write a CM plan to improve your processes, and we usually produce a slide deck to help you market your efforts. So what we're saying is that our consulting practice is focused on helping you at a trench level improve everything that you're working on. We often find it's very effective to start with a CM assessment so that you kind of baseline, remember that word, baseline where you're at right now, and have a great plan to be able to pick the right things to attack going forward. And, with that, Leslie, why don't you lead us out?
Well, thank you so much, Bob, for all that useful information. I'm sure that all the listeners will have more questions, and they can reach you at LinkedIn or both of us at CM Best Practices. We've been talking with Bob Aiello, who's the consultant and author of Configuration Management Best Practices, Practical Methods that Work in the Real World. We look forward to assisting you in your CM efforts, and For CM Best Practices Consulting, I'm Leslie Sachs.